The year was 2187 and humanity had finally been invited to join the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger on the viewing screen. Unity Point was enormous, bigger than Earth's moon, and it sparkled with lights from 1,000 different worlds. After 40 years of knowing they were not alone in the universe, humans were finally going to meet their neighbors. Ambassador Lisa Crawford stood beside him, her hands clasped behind her back. She had prepared for this moment her entire career. Behind them, the crew worked quietly, checking systems and running diagnostics. Everyone knew this was the most important day in human history. Down in the engineering section, Paul Blake was making final adjustments to the ship's power systems. His daughter Emma sat nearby, drawing pictures of the aliens she hoped to meet. She was 8 years old with bright eyes and a curious smile that never seemed to fade. The school board had approved her trip after Paul argued that some education could not be found in classrooms. Emma was going to be part of history. The Horizon docked smoothly at Unity Point. The airlock hissed open and the human delegation stepped into a world they had only dreamed about. The station's main corridor was vast, with ceilings that stretched up 50 feet or more. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the space. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated, crawled, or moved in ways that seemed to defy physics. Chancellor Vrick waited for them in the greeting hall. He was tall and insect-like, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed a soft blue. When he spoke, a translator device converted his clicking sounds into perfect English. His words were polite but cold, like a teacher talking to a student who had barely passed the entrance exam. "Welcome, humans," Vrick said. "You are young. You are inexperienced, but the Galactic Council has decided to offer you a chance at membership. There are rules you must follow, protocols you must learn. If you prove yourselves capable, you may one day have a voice in galactic affairs." Lisa kept her smile in place, though Jake could see her jaw tighten. The council was treating humanity like children who needed to be taught basic manners. But this was not the time to argue. They had come to build bridges, not burn them. The first 3 days passed in endless meetings. The humans sat through presentations about galactic law, trade regulations, and security protocols. Emma attended some sessions with her father but spent most of her time in the station's educational center, where young beings from different worlds learned together. She made friends with a small furry creature from a planet called Maxis and a floating blob that communicated through color changes. On the 4th day, the council organized a cultural exchange ceremony in the garden atrium. It was a beautiful space filled with plants from hundreds of worlds, each section carefully controlled for temperature and atmosphere. Lisa gave a speech about Earth's history and hopes for the future. A choir from the ship sang a song that made several aliens tilt their heads in what might have been appreciation or confusion. Emma wandered away during the reception that followed. Paul was deep in conversation with an alien engineer, discussing power core designs. Lisa was surrounded by council members asking questions about human reproduction rates and resource consumption. Nobody noticed when the little girl slipped between 2 large plants and followed a path that seemed to lead to an even prettier garden area. The restricted zone was not clearly marked with signs humans could read. To the council, the energy barrier at the entrance was obvious, a standard warning that anyone with basic galactic education would recognize. But Emma did not have that education. She walked right through the barrier, feeling only a slight tingle on her skin. The garden on the other side was smaller but filled with plants that glowed and hummed with soft music. In the center was something that looked like a large flower made of crystal. Emma approached it slowly, her eyes wide with wonder. She reached out to touch it, not knowing it was actually a control interface for the station's environmental systems. Drath was stationed nearby. He was a security officer from a species called the Vraxians, reptilian beings who had served as the council's enforcers for 300 years. When he saw movement in the restricted area, his training took over. There was no time for questions, no time for warnings. Threats to critical systems had to be eliminated immediately. The energy blast caught Emma in the chest. She did not have time to scream. Her body fell among the glowing plants, small and broken and silent. Paul Blake found her first. Someone had triggered an alert when life signs flattered in the restricted zone, and he ran when he heard it was near where Emma had been exploring. His scream brought the others running. Lisa Crawford arrived seconds later, followed by Jake Morrison and half the human delegation. They formed a circle around Paul as he held his daughter, rocking back and forth, making sounds that were not quite words. Council security arrived within minutes. Drath stood at attention, his weapon still in his hand. He showed no emotion as he filed his report. The human child had entered a restricted area. She had approached a critical system. He had followed protocol and eliminated the threat. His words were calm and professional, as though he had just filed a maintenance report. Chancellor Vrick arrived an hour later. He looked at Emma's body, now covered with a blanket from the horizon. He listened to Drath's report. He consulted briefly with his advisors. Then he turned to the humans and delivered his judgment. "This is an unfortunate incident," Vrick said. However, Security Officer Drath followed proper protocol. The restricted area was clearly marked according to Galactic standards. The child should not have been there. We will provide a financial compensation of 50,000 Galactic credits to the family. The matter is now closed. Lisa Crawford stepped forward, her face white with rage. Closed? You murdered a child and you think money makes this closed? Frick's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. The child violated security protocols. Drath responded appropriately. If you wish to pursue this further, you may file a formal complaint with the Council Judiciary. The process takes approximately 15 standard years. Now shall we continue with the membership discussions? The human delegation returned to the horizon that night. Paul Blake carried Emma's body in his arms, refusing to let anyone else touch her. He laid her in the medical bay and sat beside her until Jake Morrison gently told him they needed to prepare for departure. The council had made it clear that humans were no longer welcome at Unity Point until they accepted the judgment and apologized for causing a disruption. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. Paul did not speak for the first 5 days. Lisa spent most of her time in her quarters, writing a report she knew would change everything. Jake kept the ship running and tried not to think about what was coming. When they arrived at Earth, the news was already spreading. Someone had leaked footage of Emma's death. The entire planet had watched a little girl reach for what she thought was a flower. They had watched her die. They had heard Chancellor Vrick call it an unfortunate incident and offer money as though that fixed anything. President Helen Grant met the horizon personally at the orbital dock. She embraced Paul Blake without words. She read Lisa's report in silence. Then she called an emergency meeting of every military and civilian leader on Earth. The meeting lasted 18 hours. When it ended, President Grant gave one order to General Marcus Webb, the head of Earth Defense Forces. "Activate the hidden projects," she said quietly. "All of them. We are going to teach the galaxy what happens when you kill our children." Deep in the asteroid belt, lights began to glow in the darkness. Weapons platforms that should not exist powered up their reactors. In the Oort cloud, warships that no treaty mentioned opened their eyes and prepared for war. Humanity had been building in secret for decades. Reverse engineering technology from crashed alien probes and derelict ships found throughout the solar system. The Council thought humans were primitive and weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Ambassador Lisa Crawford returned to Unity Point exactly 1 month after Emma's death. The Council had summoned her for what they called a final discussion about human membership. Chancellor Vrick expected an apology. He expected humanity to accept their place in the galactic order and move forward. He had dealt with angry species before, and they always came around eventually. Lisa walked into the council chamber alone. The room was circular and enormous, with seats rising in tiers for representatives from 47 different species. Thousands of beings watched her, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed contempt. These primitive humans needed to learn respect. She stood in the center of the chamber and looked up at Chancellor Vrick. He leaned forward in his seat, his insect features arranged in what might have been a smile. "Ambassador Crawford, we are pleased you have returned to reason. The Council is prepared to overlook your earlier emotional outburst. We understand that humans form strong attachments to their offspring. It is a common trait among younger species. Now, shall we discuss the terms of your membership?" Lisa reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple communication tablet, nothing threatening. She held it up so everyone could see. "I have a message from Earth," she said quietly. Just one word. She pressed the button on the device. Every screen in the chamber lit up simultaneously. Every personal communicator belonging to every council member activated at once. The message appeared in every known galactic language, simple and clear. "Die." Before anyone could react, The screens changed again. Detailed maps appeared, showing homeworlds, defense systems, population centers, military installations. Every species in the Council saw their most protected secrets displayed for everyone to see. Beneath each map was a countdown timer, ticking down from 72 hours. Chancellor Vrick stood up, his forearms gesturing wildly. "This is an act of war. Guards, arrest her immediately." Lisa smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You already started the war when you killed Emma Blake. We gave you a chance at justice. You refused. Now Earth will deliver its own justice. Those timers are counting down to extinction protocols for every species that voted to dismiss her death as acceptable. You have 72 hours to evacuate your homeworlds. Or don't. Earth no longer cares what you choose." Security officers rushed toward her, but Lisa simply touched another button on her device. She vanished in a shimmer of light, transported directly back to the horizon, which had been waiting in stealth mode just outside the station. Within seconds, the ship was gone, invisible to all Council sensors. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives screamed at each other, demanding explanations. How had humans obtained their defense codes? How had they penetrated the most secure systems in the galaxy? Chancellor Vrick called for calm, but nobody listened. Several species immediately contacted their military commanders, ordering them to prepare for invasion. Others tried to establish communication with Earth, hoping to negotiate. President Grant ignored every call. She sat in the Situation Room deep beneath the surface, watching reports from around the galaxy. General Marcus Webb stood beside her, along with Dr. Nathan Cross, the scientist who had overseen humanity's secret weapons development for the past 20 years. "The Council is mobilizing a fleet," Webb reported. 30 warships under Admiral Kelleth. They are heading for Earth now. Estimated arrival in 6 days, Grant nodded. "Let them come." "Commander Cooper, are your ships in position?" On the main screen, Commander Ryan Cooper appeared. He was aboard the Shadow, one of 12 stealth frigates that had been built in secret facilities scattered throughout the solar system. His crew had been training for 5 years, waiting for a mission they hoped would never come. Now it was here. "We are ready, Madam President," Cooper said. "All 12 ships are deployed along the Council fleet's projected route. We have weapons lock on every target." "Wait until they reach the outer system," Grant ordered. "I want them to see Earth. I want them to think they are about to win. Then show them what humanity has built." Admiral Kelleth was confident as his fleet crossed into the solar system. He was Draxian, a species that had never lost a battle in 500 years. His forearms worked the controls of his flagship with practiced ease. The humans would surrender when they saw his fleet, or they would die when his weapons burned their cities. Either way, this would be over quickly. His sensors showed nothing unusual. No defense satellites, no military vessels, just a single blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Alone and vulnerable, Kelleth opened a communication channel, preparing to deliver his surrender demand. That was when the Shadow dropped its stealth field. The Council had never developed stealth technology that could fool their own sensors. They had never needed to, but humanity had found a way, using quantum field manipulation that existed in a space between dimensions. The 12 human ships appeared simultaneously around the Council fleet, close enough to fire but too close for the Council ships to maneuver effectively. Cooper gave the order. Human weapons launched, and they were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They did not fly through space. They phased through it, passing through the Council's shields as though the shields did not exist. The exotic matter warheads detonated inside the Council ships, tearing them apart from within. In less than 3 minutes, 30 Council warships were destroyed. Admiral Kelleth managed to send one final transmission before his flagship exploded. His voice was filled with horror. "They have weapons that ignore shields. They can kill us all. The humans can kill us all." The transmission reached every Council member simultaneously. Panic spread like fire through dry grass. If humanity could bypass shields, then every species was vulnerable. Every homeworld, every station, every ship. The protection they had relied on for millennia was worthless. Chancellor Vrick tried to organize a defense, but the Council was fracturing. Some species immediately declared neutrality and begged Earth for mercy. Others formed alliances to prepare counterstrike. Vice-Chancellor Thesara, a crystalline being known for her wisdom, argued that the Council should surrender and accept human demands. Vrick refused. He would not bow to primitives no matter what weapons they possessed. The countdown timers reached 0 on the 3rd day. Commander Cooper led a team to Vraxis Prime, homeworld of the species that had killed Emma. They deployed a single device into the planet's upper atmosphere. It looked small and harmless, barely the size of a human fist. The device released nanomachines, billions of them, programmed with a single purpose. They spread through the atmosphere in hours, invisible and unstoppable. They did not harm the planet. They did not destroy buildings or burn forests. They simply found every member of Drath's species and stopped their hearts. Within 72 hours, Vraxis Prime was silent. The planet remained beautiful and intact, but every single member of the species that had killed a human child was dead. The galaxy watched in horror. Humanity had not simply destroyed a planet. They had killed an entire species while leaving everything else untouched. It was a demonstration of precision and control that should not have been possible for such a young civilization. The message was clear. Earth could kill anyone, anywhere, and leave no collateral damage. Other teams targeted Council military installations throughout the galaxy. Shipyards exploded. Command centers went dark. Weapons platforms turned on each other as human hackers took control of their systems. Within 2 weeks, the Council's military coordination completely collapsed. Vice-Chancellor Thesara finally had enough support to act. She seized control of Unity Point with the help of species that wanted peace. She arrested Chancellor Vrick and charged him with war crimes for his dismissal of Emma's death and his refusal to seek peaceful resolution. Then she sent a message directly to President Grant. "Humanity has made its point," Thesara said, her crystalline body glowing with urgency. "We understand now. Human life matters. All life matters. Please stop the killing. Drath will be executed. Frick will stand trial. We will restructure the Council to give humanity equal voice. Just please stop." President Grant watched the message with tired eyes. She had not slept properly in weeks. The weight of billions of deaths pressed down on her shoulders. General Webb wanted to continue until every Council species surrendered completely. Dr. Cross argued that humanity had achieved its objectives and should show mercy. Lisa Crawford, who had started this war, sat in the corner and said nothing.
She could not forget Emma's face.
She could not forget that none of this would bring the child back. Grant made her decision. "We will accept the Council's surrender on the following terms. The Galactic Council will be dissolved. A new federation will be formed with humanity as a founding member with equal rights. Any species that harms a human child or any child from any species will face complete extinction. There will be no exceptions, no protocols that value security over innocent life, and the Federation headquarters will be renamed Emma Station so that everyone remembers what happens when you forget that children matter more than rules." Thesara agreed to every term. Within a month, the new Galactic Federation was established. Chancellor Vrick was tried, found guilty, and executed.